Today I have Alan Fair from All's in the Fam, a podcast created to educate and share experiences around caring for those with Alzheimer's. As well, if you have neurological issues yourself, All's in the Fam is a fantastic podcast community and support group.
So I'm the youngest of my four siblings. They're 12, 10, and 8 years older than me. And so I've lived a very different life from them, which isn't to say that the three of them individually don't have different lives, but they all went to the same college. I went to a different college. They all still live in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area in the United States. I moved to New York City after I graduated college. So I've really been away from my immediate family for my entire adult life. And that's when our mom started getting sick. So I was looking for a way to, one, be closer with my sisters and do a project with them. And also felt that there was some value in our story. A lot of people may undergo a mental health journey alone, but man, is it really, really wonderful to have siblings and go through the journey together. It's not perfect how we get along, but I couldn't imagine going through this without them. And I think in our story, All's in the Fam, you see our differences in personality and how we looked at different things that happened along in our mother's timeline and how we reacted differently. In my own journey, and this is in more recent years where my mom, had since been fully diagnosed, but now that I'm technically middle-aged, I don't feel middle-aged. I don't feel like I look middle-aged. But at any rate, I'm much more conscious about doing things that can be helpful to the world and to others. And I think I spent the first half of my professional career being very ego driven. Really fortunate, had a really wonderful career. I've been able to work with brands and people all over the world and produce work that gets seen and experienced. And it was only a couple of years ago where I kind of realized that my motivation in all of that was, if this work that I do gets seen, then I'll be more appreciated and more liked and more loved. And this is my way of, this is my place in the world of doing things that that can be seen and experienced. And I hit this period a couple of years ago where I was kind of like, well, why aren't I happier? What's going on here? And that really led me on a path pivoting from an outward journey and being kind of exclusive to an outward journey and taking more of an inward journey, which I'd still say I'm very much in my infancy in. But in that inward journey, mental health is really, really important to me. And certainly with my mom's Alzheimer and therefore, the potential for me to be genetically predisposed to it myself, it really grounds, my head and my heart in a place where I think I have something to offer, by living the truth of my experience with mental health and with my mom's story as part of my own. And I think that philosophically, I believe that there are three divides that define the times in which we live. And so one is a divide between our relationship between ourselves and the earth, as we see being manifested in all kinds of climate events, pandemics, floods, fires. The second one is a divide between ourselves and others. We see that in a rise in nationalism and political tribalism. And then the third one is a divide between our relationship with ourself and our inner self. And we see that manifesting in a mental health crisis that's happening globally. We see it in an increase in suicide rates, in murders, in drug overdoses, and so I've the new company that I've started over the last year is called Meaning. And even though my primarily clientele is corporations, those three divides and doing something to heal those three divides is the purpose of meaning. And I like working with organizations because they're the most powerful entity in the world. So if we can scale these divides at an organizational level, then I think we can achieve global scale. I think that they're the generation that is going to save the world and needs to be the generation to save the world. And I think they kind of know it. And so they're sort of looking around and,
Yeah.
as they inherit their power, they're looking around at the grown-ups who have the power right now. And they're kind of saying, come on, come on, guys, is this the best we can do here? So yeah, I'm certainly rooting for them to, it's an Allen Ginsberg quote or line in a poem, but put their queer shoulder to the wheel, so to speak, but grab their control and
Yeah.
have their turn to run the world in their image, and I'm hopeful that they can steer us into a better place.
But they still need the guidance from people like yourself and people like that guidance is still so necessary. I think in terms of the right guidance, not multi corporations that are so big that they have no they don't touch the people that they work with or that they really have connections. But the companies that you're working with or that meanings about or those kind of leaders, that's still so very much needed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what won't change is mentorship of those who have lived longer, maybe have experience in the field. But I think the hierarchical carrots and sticks of work here for 10 years and ascend and into these narrower
Yeah.
opportunities and maybe make it to the top and get your 2 to 3 weeks vacation per year. I don't think as many young people aspire for that type of life and lifestyle. I think they want more freedom to have experiences. I think they don't mind money, but are less motivated and troubled by saving it. And I don't mean to overly generalize positive or negative in one way or another, but um, I think the point that I'm trying to make is that in this change in the hierarchical structure of many big, powerful corporations, I do see an opportunity where how do we create organizations where the wise older generations can be of service to the purpose and vision of younger people and help steer and guide it versus this is how we do things around here, young person.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's part of it. Maybe not that specifically, but yeah, what we try to do is help organizations win the battle for talent across all generations.
Mm-hmm.
The concept of the pension as an employee benefit has been around for decades and decades, but no young person really cares about a pension because that's so far, it's such an abstract concept that they're more likely to choose one company over another based on the quality of the food in the cafeteria, one serve.
So true. And the people they get to work with, 100%.
Yeah,
And if I was going to tie it back into like the care. Is your mother in a care home or is she at home with you? Is she in home care with you guys?
she is. She's in a memory care facility,
Okay.
and has been for a few years. And we are currently, we're currently in the phase where we're running out of money from her own assets and deciding what to do next, which is complicated. It's not as simple as okay, we're out of money, bring on the Medicaid bed, right? It's a very I don't want to say strategic process because it's hard to be strategic when there's so many things you don't have control over. But we're desperately trying to avoid a scenario where we have to move our mom, who is deteriorating pretty rapidly, but is still fairly physically active. And so one thing that we weigh is to like, oh my gosh, what do we do next as we get lower on money and have less options? they're trying to avoid a scenario where she ends up in a facility where they end up just drugging her more to keep her more sedentary, and accelerate her decline that much more. That's hard. Those types of decisions.
Right.
We just had a sibling call about it a couple days ago, and we all went around and just verbally confirmed that none of us saw a path where she could live with any of us in her state right now, in her mental physical state.
Yeah.
And it's tough when when your loved one is that unwell. We wish we could have a place we could buy that she could live in, and we could take turns staying there with her. And it's like, things that you could do if you had the money, but you just have to roll with the punches in the meantime. So yeah, I think we have an interesting chapter ahead of us in our story to tell, as well as bringing in other stories.
But a couple, it's just about like having to move into like looking for solutions, right? That are maybe outside of the box, right? Just maybe not in a home, but like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If we had better means, I mean, it just feels like it's due for disruption. The whole concept of healthcare in our country. There a way to do it with more grace and dignity, and how do we create careers where people want to work in healthcare too, and align it with their purpose. You look at the rise of what the predicted number of cases for Alzheimer's in our country is going to be in the year 2050, and it's far, far greater than the expected number of healthcare workers that are going to be there to care for them. And so, how do we one, find a way to reduce these predicted number of Alzheimer's cases, and how do we create a new movement in healthcare that makes people aspire to want to work in that and help care for these people, but also find new breakthroughs and therapies and other ways. And I don't know that I have a great idea for it myself, but the whole industry seems ripe for disruption, and I'm rooting for a completely new way of thinking about how we care for the elderly in our modern system.
Watch the whole episode on the Boomerang Life Podcast.